The night Emily Carter realized something was wrong did not begin with a kiss or a secret message. It began with a door that would not close and a feeling she could not push away. It was raining outside her suburban home near Portland, Oregon. The kind of rain that Americans knew well, soft, endless, tapping on windows like it had nowhere else to go. Emily stood in her kitchen at nearly midnight, holding a mug of cold tea, listening to the house breathe. Her husband, Daniel, was asleep. Upstairs, the guest room light was on. And standing in the hallway, unsure whether to step forward or turn back, was her sister's boyfriend. That moment lasted only a few seconds, but it changed everything. Emily was 41, organized, dependable, and quiet. She worked in marketing, drove the same car for years, and believed deeply in doing the right thing. She had been married to Daniel for 11 years. Their life was stable, calm, and safe. They never yelled. They never broke things. They never betrayed each other. They also barely talked anymore. Daniel was a good man, paid bills on time, remembered birthdays, and kissed Emily's forehead every night. But over the years, something between them had faded. Conversations turned into schedules. Touch turned into habit. Love turned into routine. Emily told herself that this was normal. This was marriage. This was adulthood. Then her sister Rachel came to stay. Rachel was younger, louder, and full of stories. She had just moved back from Chicago after a breakup and needed a place to stay for a few weeks. She arrived with energy, music, and a new boyfriend named Lucas. Lucas was Canadian, from Vancouver. He worked in tech and had a calm voice that made people slow down when he spoke. He wasn't flashy or dramatic. He smiled gently and listened closely. He didn't try to impress anyone. From the first night, Emily noticed him. She hated herself for that at dinner. Lucas asked questions most people didn't. He asked Emily about her work, not in a polite way, but in a curious one. He remembered her answers. When she mentioned a book she loved, he knew it. When she joked about hating rainy mornings, he laughed like it mattered. Emily told herself it was nothing. He was just kind, just observant. But kindness, she realized, can be dangerous when you haven't felt seen in a long time. Over the next few days, the house filled with small shared moments. Coffee in the morning before Daniel woke up. Late dinners when Rachel stayed out. Quiet talks while folding laundry. None of it crossed a line. None of it looked wrong. And yet Emily felt herself leaning in. Lucas did not fit into her life. He was a guest. He was her sister's partner. It was temporary. Emily reminded herself of that every day. Still, she did not pull away. One evening, Rachel went out to meet friends. Daniel stayed late at work. Emily and Lucas were alone in the living room, the television playing softly. They sat far apart, but the silence felt close. Emily talked about her early dreams, travel, writing, starting her own business. Dreams she had quietly buried. Lucas listened without interrupting. "I didn't know that about you," he said. Emily smiled, but her chest felt tight. "Most people don't." Lucas nodded slowly. "That's a shame." That sentence stayed with her long after he went to bed. The next morning, Emily woke up uneasy. She moved through her routine like someone walking through fog. She knew she was standing near something dangerous. She knew she should step back, but she didn't. Instead, she kept showing up in the kitchen early. She kept talking. She kept listening. She told herself she was doing nothing wrong. But emotional lines are not always loud when they break. Sometimes they break quietly, with permission. One night, Lucas returned late from a walk. Emily was locking up downstairs. They met in the hallway. The light from the guest room spilled across the floor. For a moment, neither of them moved. Lucas looked like he wanted to speak, then stopped. Emily felt her heart beat harder. The space between them felt heavy, full of words that did not belong. "This isn't a good idea," Emily said softly. "I know," Lucas replied. He did not step closer. He did not touch her. That made it worse. Emily nodded and stepped aside so he could pass. The door behind him stayed open a moment too long. She closed it herself. That night, Emily lay awake beside Daniel, staring at the ceiling. She felt guilt, fear, and something else she didn't want to name. She had not cheated. She had not lied. But she had opened a door inside herself, and she was no longer sure how to close it by morning. She knew one thing clearly: Lucas didn't belong in her life. But she also knew the harder truth: she hadn't stopped him from fitting into her heart. The morning Lucas left the house, Emily Carter knew her life would never return to what it had been. The sun was bright, almost cruel, lighting the quiet street like nothing had happened. Cars passed, a dog barked. Normal life continued, while something inside Emily finally cracked open. She stood at the kitchen sink, hands shaking, watching Lucas zip his bag near the door. Rachel was still asleep upstairs. Daniel had already left for work. The house felt too large, too silent, like it was holding its breath. Lucas paused before leaving. He looked at Emily, not with longing, not with regret, but with respect. "I'm sorry," he said. Emily nodded. "Me too. That was all. No promises, no drama. No turning back." The door closed and the sound echoed through her chest. Emily did not cry, not then. She cleaned the kitchen, wiped the counters, and sat at the table staring at nothing. She felt empty, but also awake. For the first time in years, she could not hide from herself. She had crossed a line without touching anyone. Rachel came down later, cheerful and unaware. She talked about brunch plans and joked about Lucas being dramatic. Emily listened, smiled, and felt a weight press on her lungs. By noon, Emily knew she could not keep pretending. She asked Rachel to sit with her. Her voice was calm, but her hands were cold. "I need to tell you something," Emily said. Rachel looked confused. "What's wrong?" Emily chose her words carefully. She did not confess feelings. She did not blame anyone. She told the truth without cruelty. "I let things get too close," she said, "not physically, but emotionally, and that's on me." Rachel stared at her, silent. Then she stood up slowly. "Did something happen?" she asked. "No," Emily said. "And that's why I'm stopping it now." Rachel left the room without yelling, without tears. That hurt more than anger would have. Later that night, Rachel packed her things. She hugged Emily briefly, stiff and polite. She did not ask questions. She did not forgive. She left. Emily watched her sister's car disappear down the street and felt the full weight of her choices settle in. That evening, Daniel came home tired. He kissed Emily's cheek and asked about dinner. His voice was gentle, familiar. Emily almost said nothing, but something inside her refused to stay quiet. They ate in silence. Then Emily spoke. "I'm not okay," she said. Daniel looked up, surprised. "What do you mean?" "I've been unhappy for a long time," she said, "and I didn't want to admit it." Daniel leaned back, concern growing in his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me?" Emily swallowed. "Because I didn't want to hurt you, and because I didn't want to admit I was lost." She did not mention Lucas. She did not need to. The truth she needed to share was bigger than one person. Daniel listened. He did not interrupt. When she finished, he nodded slowly. "I knew something was wrong," he said. "I just didn't know how to reach you." That night they slept on opposite sides of the bed. No anger, no shouting, just distance. Finally named, the weeks that followed were heavy but honest. They tried counseling. They talked more than they had in years. They uncovered small hurts and long silences. But something had changed. Emily could not unfeel what she had felt. Not for Lucas, but for herself. She realized how lonely she had been, how much of her life she had muted to keep the peace. Daniel sensed it too. One night, he said quietly, "I think we became roommates who cared deeply but forgot how to be partners." Emily nodded. Tears rolled down her face. "I think so too." The decision to separate came slowly, without blame. Friends were shocked. Family asked questions. Emily answered honestly, but gently. No one cheated, she said, but something still broke. She moved into a small apartment across town. The first night alone, she sat on the floor and cried until morning. Not for Lucas, not even for Daniel. She cried for the woman she had been and the one she was becoming. Months passed. Emily found new routines. Morning walks, writing again. Long talks with a therapist who asked hard questions. She learned how easily attention can feel like love when you're starved of it. She never spoke to Lucas again, not because she hated him, but because she understood the truth. He had not taken anything from her. He had only shown her what she was missing. Sometimes, late at night, Emily thought about that moment in the hallway. The pause. The choice. She realized something important. Infidelity does not begin with bodies. It begins with silence, with unmet needs, with doors left open when they should be closed. Years later, Emily met Daniel for coffee. They spoke easily, kindly. They had both grown. "I don't regret us," Daniel said. "Neither do I." Emily replied, and she meant it. As Emily walked home, she felt peaceful, not proud, not ashamed. Just aware she had learned the hardest lesson of her life without destroying anyone else. That sometimes the most dangerous thing is not what you do, but what you allow. And once you allow it, you must have the courage to stop, even when it hurts.